Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter-spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve. Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
Robert Young stars in an episode of Father Knows Best, as it was originally broadcast October 1st, 1953, and it's all about a mix-up on dates. And we're not talking about calendar, we're talking about the romantic kind, if you know what I mean.
Mother, are Post 40% bran flakes really the best tasting cereal of them all?
Well, your father says so, and Father knows best.
Yes, it's Father Knows Best, transcribed in Hollywood, starring Robert Young as father. A half-hour visit with your neighbors, the Andersons. Brought to you by Instant Sanka, the delicious coffee that lets you sleep, and Post 40% bran flakes. Mother, next time you're choosing a cereal, remember new Post 40% bran flakes give your family all the important keep regular benefits of bran in a cereal with a delicious new magic oven flavor. Insist on Post bran flakes, the cereal preferred and eaten by far more people than any other bran flakes. This weekend, get Post 40% bran flakes in the new family-size 15-ounce package. They're good, and so good for you. There are certain things that parents are required to do for their children. There are many things they want to do for them, but there are a few things they should never do for them. Now, there's no published list of these things, and so about the only way a parent can find out what they are is to stumble into them by accident. Jim Anderson stumbled into one the other day. Little did daughter Betty realize what was in store for her as she helped set the table for dinner that evening. Like this.
And then Ralph said to me, Betty, he said, I'd rather have you in old blue jeans than Marilyn Monroe in a mink coat. Wasn't that sweet, Mother?
You're spilling the carrots, Betty.
Huh? Oh.
And don't set that hot plate on the table without something under it.
Ralph is really very sweet. When you come right down to it, Mother, he is sweet.
Mm-hmm.
I've been misjudging him a lot lately, but he was really very, very sincere when he told me he'd rather have me in blue jeans than... I wonder why he keeps mentioning Marilyn Monroe all the time.
Betty, please finish setting the table. Your father will be home any minute.
He must have a blonde complex. That's all he can think about.
Dinner ready, Mom?
Almost.
I'm hungry.
Well, wash up and comb your hair.
Oh, no use washing now. It's my turn to do dishes tonight. I'll get my hands soaked up good then.
That doesn't make any difference. Do them now.
Too much water is hard on them. Breaks down the tissues.
I don't think you're in any danger. Hurry now.
Mommy!
Makes them red and flabby.
Mommy!
Yes, Kathy?
Mommy, can I make some taffy?
Not now. Dinner's ready.
I won't make much. Please, can I?
There isn't time now.
Mother, shall I put the roast on the table?
I guess so. Your father's evidently going to be late.
Betty, will you help me pull taffy tonight? No, I'm going to the library with Ralph. Bud, well...
No.
Mommy, make him help me pull taffy.
Don't bother him now. He's washing his hands.
I gotta write a theme tonight.
Mommy.
Kathy, just let it go for now. Don't keep needling me about it.
Yeah, I gotta write a theme tonight. Mom, have I ever been embarrassed?
Embarrassed?
Yeah, that's what I gotta write about. My most embarrassing moment.
Oh.
We had our choice. Either that or the most vivid character I ever met.
I see.
I took the embarrassing one because I didn't know what vivid meant.
Now, that's a fine reason.
Margaret, I'm home.
Oh, good. There's your father.
Let's get to eating. I'm starved.
Hello, Daddy.
Hello, kitten.
Will you help me pull taffy?
We'll see. How are you, honey?
Hello, dear.
Hi, Dad.
Hi. Say, this looks good. I'm hungry, too.
Will you, Daddy?
Will I what?
Pull taffy?
Kathy, don't bother your father now. He wants to eat his dinner.
I'm sorry I'm a little late, Margaret, but Brownell's in town.
Who?
Brownell, vice president.
Oh, sure.
Sure a nice fellow. Real pleasure to have him around. Not like old Cragson used to be.
Well, that's nice. Carrots?
Thanks. I thought we might take him out to dinner some night. He'll be here for a couple of days.
I think that'd be a good idea.
Oh, by the way, Betty, I fixed up a little date for you tonight.
You did what, Father?
Fixed you up a date. I'd like some of that jelly, bud.
Sure.
Father, look at me. What do you mean you fixed me up a little date?
Just that. Brownell's son is with him, and he doesn't know anybody in town, so I arranged for him to come over and pick you up tonight. Might go to a show or a dance.
Oh, so you arranged it.
This is a wonderful roast, Margaret. What did you do to it?
Just cooked it.
Father,
Yes?
stop evading the issue and look at me.
Evading the issue? What issue?
You know what I'm talking about, this date.
Well, I've told you everything I know about it. He'll be here around 8.
That's fine. That's just fine.
I thought you'd like it. Bud, will you please pass the rolls?
Sure.
Father, how can you be such an utter square?
Square?
I suppose you think you can line up dates for me like you'd rent out a floor waxing machine.
Betty, why are you so upset? Have I done something wrong?
Wrong?
Jim.
Dad, have I ever been embarrassed?
Bud, not now.
Well, I'd like to know what all the fuss is about.
Father, we are not living in the feudal age anymore.
I didn't say we were.
You act like it. Girls are not put on the auction block and sold like livestock nowadays, Father.
For goodness sake, Betty, all I did was...
All you did was arrange a little date for me on the very night I always go to the library with Ralph.
Well, it's not going to hurt you to miss going to the library one night.
It's not the library, it's Ralph.
Well, you're not engaged to Ralph. Besides, I'm not asking you to marry the Brownell boy. Just a courtesy toward a...
What does he look
business...
like?
Well, his name is Leonard.
I didn't ask that. What does he look like?
Well, well, to tell the truth, I've never seen him.
Oh, that's great. That's just great.
But I'm sure he's a fine-looking chap. His father's fairly nice-looking.
Did you get me a date with his father, too?
Betty, please. Your father was just trying to do something nice.
Gosh, you'd think I'd suggested blowing up the city hall or something.
Dad,
Yeah?
have I ever been embarrassed?
You? Embarrassed? Never.
How do you like that? I get nothing but bad breaks.
Father.
Now I'll probably flunk English this semester.
Father.
Hey, that'd be embarrassing if I flunked.
Father.
No, it'll be too late to write about it then.
Bud, will you keep quiet for half a second?
Look, Tallulah, I got problems too.
Talk about problems. Who's going to help me with my taffy?
I had no idea things were so bad.
Father, what color hair does he have?
Who?
Leonard.
I don't know, Betty. I told you I've never seen him.
What I want to know is why his father is so anxious to get dates for him. Must be a real dud.
His father had nothing to do with it. It was my idea.
How tall is he?
Betty, I don't know.
Probably a good foot and a half shorter than I am. I can just see myself galloping around the dance floor with this little squirt.
Betty, he's no little squirt.
How do you know? You've never seen him.
Look, Betty, I'm sorry this happened. I'll call up Brownell and tell him the whole thing is off.
Does he have a car?
Well, he must have. He's going to call for you.
Probably on a motorcycle.
What's wrong with a motorcycle?
Not a thing in the world. It's just dandy. I must call up all my friends and tell them to watch for me and Shorty to drive down Main Street on it.
All right, all right.
I just hope he remembers to take his goggles off while we're dancing.
What kind of a motorcycle has he got, Dan?
I don't know.
Jim, where are you going?
I'll be back.
But your dinner
Leave right there. I'll be back.
Betty, I'm afraid you were a little harsh on your father.
Well, what did you expect me to do? If I let him get away with this, there's no telling what it'll lead to.
He's not trying to get away with anything. I understand perfectly how you feel, Betty, and I don't blame you. But you're making a mountain out of a molehill.
But, Mother...
We got a molehill in the backyard.
I'm not an article of merchandise.
Did you see it?
That can be bought or traded or...
About a foot from the catalpa tree.
Bud, will you hush up?
Holy cow.
I can't hear myself think around here.
A fella tries to join in the conversation and he gets his head knocked off.
Mommy, could you make two-toned?
Two-toned what?
Taffy.
Well, when you get through pulling it and dropping it on the floor a few times, it generally is two-toned.
Anyway, Mother, if Father thinks...
Betty, your father was merely trying to do something nice, just a friendly gesture toward a business associate.
Some friendly gesture. It's just breaking me and Ralph up, that's all.
No, it isn't. You can surely explain to Ralph that it was your father's idea, not yours.
Oh, sure, nothing to it.
Well, that's that.
Do you want me to heat up your dinner, Jim?
No, this is fine.
Uh-oh, that's probably him calling.
Ask him what kind of motorcycle it is.
I'm not going to talk to him.
Well, it's not him, so stop worrying.
I'll go answer it. Leonard is probably going to suggest taking me out to the motorcycle races.
Gee, I wish I could go along.
You can have him all to your own sweet self for all I care.
Betty, if you'll stop moaning for half a minute, I've got some news for you.
Wait a minute, I can't go after all. I've got to stay home and figure out when I was embarrassed.
It's for you, Betty.
Is it Leonard?
Nope.
Thank heaven.
It's some girl.
Oh, I hope I never go through another evening like this again. I feel as though I committed treason or something.
Well, I admit she's carrying on rather elaborately, but you must remember these are very important things to a young girl. They're very sensitive about them.
Evidently. Well, it's all over now anyway.
What do you mean it's all over?
I called Brownell just now, called the date off.
You did?
I tell you, it was pretty embarrassing, too.
Now, why couldn't that have been me? Dad, you get all the breaks.
Don't I, though?
Dad, if I walked down to the drugstore in long underwear, would I be embarrassed?
I doubt it.
I don't think it would make much of a theme anyway.
Oh, that Ralph, that deceitful...
Oh, dear, what's wrong now?
You know who that was calling? Florence Pembroke.
So?
Ralph told her to call me and tell me that he couldn't take me to the library tonight because he and she are working together on the float committee for homecoming day.
Well, that's too bad, honey.
What does he see in that Florence Pembroke?
Betty, he doesn't see anything in her. He's merely on a committee with her.
Oh, sure. Probably arranged it himself. But I got even with that little pipsqueak. I told her to tell Mr. Ralph about my date with Leonard.
With Leonard?
I told her to tell him where we were going, too, so that he can see for himself.
Well, just a minute, Betty. You don't have a date with Leonard.
I what?
I called Brownell and canceled it.
Oh, Father! How could you do a thing like that?
Oh, me.
I didn't tell you to cancel it, did I?
No, not in so many words. But the way you were carrying on...
Oh, Father, call him up again.
What?
Tell him to tell Leonard to make it 8:15 instead of 8. I need more time to get dressed. I want to look real glamorous.
Now, listen here, Betty. I'm not going to do this. I called him once and...
Father, do you want to make a liar out of your own daughter?
Well, no, certainly not.
Well, then call him. I told Florence I was going out with a handsome man from out of town in a big, beautiful convertible.
What happened to his motorcycle?
Call him, Father. You've got to.
Well, all right. But you've got to stick to this.
Don't worry.
It's not going to be easy, I'll tell you that.
Mother, what do you think I ought to wear? Can I wear those glittery pumps of yours?
You better wear flat heels as long as he's shorter than you.
He is not.
Are you sure this is the same kid that's got the motorcycle?
Which one is Leonard?
Oh, children, stop asking so many questions. This thing is confusing enough as it is.
Mother, should I wear my chartreuse dress, the off-the-shoulder one?
Yes, that'd be nice.
I look awful in it.
Well, it's all set again, but we were just lucky. 2 minutes later, and we'd have missed them. They were just going out to a movie.
Uh-oh, I bet that's old Ralph. I knew he'd be calling up.
What do you want me to tell him?
I want to tell him myself. Oh, this is the day I've been waiting for.
I can tell you one thing. This is the last time I ever muscle in on Cupid's territory. I sure felt silly calling Brownell again, making up a lot of nonsense about misunderstandings and all. I don't think he much believed anything I was saying.
You should have invited him over to spend the evening here.
Well, I thought of it, but somehow I felt that the less we see of each other right now, the better.
Dad, did Mr. Brownell say what Leonard had done with his motorcycle?
Look, son, I've had a hard day, and...
Father.
Yes?
Father, could you do me one little teeny-weeny tiny little favor?
Well, that all depends. What is it?
Would you call Mr. Brownell and tell him I can't go?
What?
Now, don't explode, Father. Ralph said Florence got the message all mixed up. He was just going to be a little late is all.
Now, listen here,
and
Betty.
Oh, he was so upset about me having another date. He was just sick over it. So what could I do, Father?
Betty,
He canceled the whole float meeting, and he's going to take me to the dance himself. He's so sweet.
oh, I give up.
So will you call, Father?
No.
But, Father, I can't have 2 dates.
Well, there's nothing I can do about it.
Oh!
Now, Betty. Wait, Betty. Oh, me.
Jim, you started this. Maybe you ought to figure it out to the finish.
Yeah, I suppose so. But how?
Dad,
Yes, Bud?
try to think of something embarrassing, will you?
This is Jerry Marshall.
October 1st, 1953, Father Knows Best on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, more of Father Knows Best, October 1st, 1953.
Well, at this point in her life, Betty is faced with the prospect of having 2 dates for the evening, Ralph and the son of Jim's vice president. However, the problem of solving this situation has been tossed squarely in Jim's lap. He's pretty busy right now pacing the floor of the den where young Bud is laboring over his school theme. Like this.
Hey, Dad, listen to this now. See how it sounds.
Yeah, that sounds fine.
I haven't read it yet.
Oh.
My most embarrassing...
But I'm trying to concentrate on a little problem right now.
Well, this'll just take a second. My most embarrassing moment by Bud Anderson. Pretty good so far, huh?
Very good.
One day, when I was a young boy of a few years ago... Does that sound right?
Fine.
One day, when I was a young boy of a few years ago, I went way out to the country to visit my grandfather, and he told me to...
Told you to what?
Well, I thought maybe you could just suggest something to go in there, as long as I got it started. That's the hard part, getting started.
Look, Bud, you'll have to work that out for yourself tonight. I've got my hands pretty full with Betty's problem.
Gosh, I'd think she'd be happy to have 2 dates. Make her look real popular.
Well, it doesn't work out very well somehow or other.
Too bad Betty isn't twins.
Hey, wait a minute. I believe that's it. Sure, we'll get another girl.
What for?
Another girl to go along, make it a foursome.
Yeah.
I don't know why I didn't think of this before. Janie Liggett's the girl. I'll call her right now. Do you know the Liggett's number?
Oh, it's scribbled down there someplace. Must be.
Wait, I think this is it. Yes, Janie.
Now let's get me straightened out. Surely something embarrassing ought to happen when a boy goes to visit his grandfather.
Don't bother me now, Bud.
Would it help any if I went to visit my uncle?
Hello? I'd like to speak to Jenny Liggett, please. Oh, I didn't recognize your voice, Janie. This is Betty's father. I'm fine. Listen, Janie, a little situation has come up here. Betty has an extra boyfriend for the evening, and we thought maybe you might join her and make it a foursome. Well, I admit it's awfully late to be calling, but this whole thing came up rather unexpectedly. Ralph and an out-of-town boy. I guess about 8 o'clock. So why don't you come over as soon as you're ready, and you can start from here. Well, fine, Janie, and thanks very much. Goodbye. Well, that was simple.
Hey, Dad, listen. One day, when I was a young boy of a few years ago, I went way out to the country to visit my grandfather, and he told me to go back home. That'd be embarrassing, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I'll be right back.
One day, when I was a young boy over at my uncle...
Betty! Betty!
She's up here, dear.
I've got some good news.
Daddy, you ready to help me pull taffy now?
Later, kitten.
Well, wait, Daddy. I want you to taste it.
Well, I'll be down in a minute. Betty, are you in your room?
Naturally.
Oh, well, you'll be glad to know that I've got everything straightened out for you.
What did you do? Call Mr. Brownell?
No, I didn't.
You didn't call Ralph, did you?
No, Princess, I did not.
Well, what did you do?
Yes, just what did you do, dear? I'm a little curious myself.
It was very simple. I called Janie Liggett, and she's going to make it a foursome.
You did what?
I just told you I called Janie Liggett.
Oh, Father, no.
Well, what's wrong with that?
Listen, Father.
Go ahead. Blindfold me and line me up in front of the firing squad.
Just who is going to be Janie's date?
Well, work that out any way you like. Let her go with Leonard.
Oh, I see, and let her have all the fun.
Betty, it was merely a suggestion.
What if he turns out to be good-looking and a dreamy dancer and a lot of fun?
Betty, I merely...
Janie always thinks she can get all the new boys in town.
All right, then. You go with Leonard and let Janie go with Ralph.
With Ralph?
Yes.
I wouldn't trust her with Ralph if I had them chained in a fishbowl.
Oh, me, I give up.
Do you want me to tell you something about that Janie Liggett?
You, Betty, you upstairs?
October 1st, 1953. Father Knows Best on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. The conclusion follows these important messages. Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, the conclusion of Father Knows Best, October 1st, 1953.
Is that you, Janie, honey?
Shall I come up?
Yes, darling. Father, I could strangle you for this.
Right now, I'd welcome it.
It'll never work out. Just simply will not work out.
Well, I don't know what else to do.
Gee, Betty, is that my date? Oh, hello, Mrs. Anderson.
Hello, Janie.
Mr. Anderson.
Hi.
Betty, is that my date downstairs?
Downstairs? I don't know. Who's down there?
I don't know. I got a glimpse of some fella sitting in the living room talking to Kathy. She was asking him where his motorcycle was.
That must be Leonard.
He and Kathy are pulling taffy. Hope that's not his idea of a good time.
Jim, I think you'd better go down there and rescue the poor boy.
Yeah, okay.
Hey, Dad, I believe I've got the idea for my theme now. Listen to this.
Well, read it to your mother. I've got a little job to attend to right now.
Well, listen, Mom. Oh, hello, Janie. My Most Embarrassing Moment by Bud Anderson. And then I just leave the rest of it blank.
Leave it blank.
Yeah. And then when the teacher asks me to get up and read my theme, boy, will I be embarrassed.
But the idea is to write a theme, not get embarrassed.
Yeah, but, Mom, you see...
Come on downstairs, and I'll help you work on it.
I got one other idea about visiting my grandfather, but it's not so hard.
Tell me, Janie, what does he look like?
The boy downstairs?
Yes.
Well, I didn't really get a good look at him.
Oh, you didn't, huh?
No. But I believe he has dark, wavy hair and blue eyes. And he's wearing a brown gabardine suit with a tan pinstripe shirt and dark green tie with socks to match, brown Scotch grain shoes, and he's got a fraternity pin on.
What fraternity?
I told you. I didn't get a good look at him.
Oh.
What'd you say his name was?
Leonard. Dark, wavy hair, did you say?
Uh-huh. He's dreamy. I hope he's a good dancer as long as I'm going to have to dance with him all evening.
Janie, you know, he's the son of the vice president of Father's insurance company.
Oh, really?
And, this date is sort of a business gesture for Father.
So what am I supposed to do, talk about insurance all evening?
No, what I mean is, well, Father would sort of like me to go with Leonard. It's Father's idea, you understand.
Oh. Oh, so then do I get Ralph?
Well, not exactly.
Well, just what cozy little arrangement have you got worked out?
Well, you see, Janie...
Betty, could we speak to you a minute?
Just a second, Father. I'm coming.
Oh, gee, Betty, I've forgotten my lipstick. Have you got one I can borrow?
Look on the vanity there.
Okay.
Yes, Father. What is it? You and Mother look like you've just seen a ghost.
Go on, Jim. Tell her.
Well, something has just come up, and,
Well, what is it?
Well, Betty, both the boys are here now, and it seems that Ralph got to worrying a little bit about the boy you were supposed to have a date with.
Worrying?
Yes, so he brought Florence Pembroke along as a date for him.
Brought Florence along?
Now, just keep calm, Betty. Remember, this wasn't my idea, and I'm sure there's some way we can work it out.
Why, that's wonderful, Father.
What?
Well, that solves everything, Father.
Betty, are you sure you heard what I said?
Why, certainly. Now both Florence and Janie can go with Ralph, but that way neither one of them will really have him, and I can go with Leonard. Hurry up, Janie.
I'm coming.
Good night, Father. Good night, Mother.
Bye, Mrs. Anderson, Mr. Anderson.
Well,
Margaret, if I live to be 1,000 years old, there's one thing I'll never understand, and that's girls.
Well, sometime when you have a moment, dear, come into the den and we'll have a little talk.
gay fivesome is now on its way to the dance, and ex-matchmaker Jim is still pondering the complexities of the tender feminine mind as he wearily pulls taffy with Kathy and listens to the workings of the young male mind. Like this.
Now, I could start it out like this, Dad.
Uh-huh.
Once upon a time ago, when I was a boy, and I went out swimming and some other boy stole my pants.
But that's not going to work. But I've got an idea. Change the title to The Most Embarrassing Moment of a Friend of Mine and start it out like this.
Shoot, I'm ready.
Once upon a time, I knew a man who had a daughter. Now, this man had the strange idea that he could arrange a date for his daughter. So one day, this misguided man...
Join us again next week when we'll be back with Father Knows Best, starring Robert Young as Jim Anderson. Until then, good night and good luck from the makers of Post 40% Bran Flakes, the cereal preferred and eaten by far more people than any other Bran Flakes, and Instant Sanka, the delicious coffee that lets you sleep. In our cast were Jean Vanderpyle as Margaret, Rhoda Williams, Ted Donaldson, Helen Strome, and Mary Lee Robb.
October 1st, 1953, Father Knows Best on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, an episode of the soap opera Claudia. This episode originally broadcast October 1st, 1948.
And now, Claudia.
Now, you listen to me, David Norton. You can't help being in this hospital, and you're going to be here several days more, so you might as well just sit back and enjoy it.
I'll sit back, and I'll even lie back, but I won't enjoy it.
Honestly. Just because you're stubborn.
Well, did you enjoy being in the hospital when you had the baby?
I loved it. I did, too. All the lovely attentions I received, nurses running in and out. And they didn't make half as much fuss about me as they did about you because you just happened to be a man. Not such a bad-looking one at that.
You don't have to flatter my ego.
I'm not. Any other day you'd agree with me, only today you're in a bad humor.
Well, you'd be in a bad humor, too.
You are a fine sport, you are.
I am.
All you have is a silly little broken collarbone and hangover from a concussion. You ought to be very grateful.
Well, if that's all I have, why can't I go home?
Oh, darling, I hate you to be in the hospital, but I just keep knocking wood that you are. Could have been so much worse.
It shouldn't have happened in the first place.
But it wasn't your fault. The other man skidded into you.
And he's dead.
David, it wasn't your fault.
I know it wasn't. You don't have to keep telling me. The fact remains that he's dead, and it's not a nice thing to think about.
David, you're not going to brood about it, are you?
Why shouldn't I? A little anyway.
Because you're not the brooding kind of a man. Only hens brood, and you're a rooster.
Yeah, one sockdologer of a rooster.
Oh, shut up.
Now, that's a nice way to talk to me. A bedridden convalescent.
Well, it's the only way you deserve being talked to. Complaining because you have to spend a few days in this lovely sunny room, being pampered and the rest will do you good.
I'm not tired.
Maybe you would be if you weren't in bed.
Well, that's one way of looking at it.
As a matter of fact, you look so comfortable, I almost wish I were here, too.
If you were, I wouldn't mind so much.
Now that was sweet.
Well, am I not always sweet?
So.
If I could turn over, I'd show you something beautiful. The nurse said I have the most stunning black and blue marks between my shoulders. The shape of South America.
Oh, South America's a lovely shape.
We'll have to go there someday.
You just get well. That's all I care about. And Mama and the baby and Fritz and Bertha, it's all they care about, too.
Have you spoken to Roger today?
Oh, yes, just before coming over.
What did he say?
He says, everything at the office is going on fine. He's managing beautifully. Aren't you pleased?
Yeah, delighted. There's nothing like being dispensable.
Now, Roger didn't mean it that way, and you know it.
I suppose not. I'm glad he's managing without me.
Hurts, doesn't it?
Well, how would you like it if I told you everything at home was going beautifully when you weren't there?
You do tell me. You tell me that all the time.
Yeah, it's different with a man.
Yes, everything's always different with a man. David, listen, you should hear how the telephone at home rings all day. People from all over Eastbrook telephoning to find out how you are. People I didn't know we knew.
Let's go back and try that again. Now, let's see. People
I never knew.
Yeah,
I knew.
That's all right.
Before.
Forget it. Now, that's nice.
Okay.
I'm glad. Yeah, that's great.
You get the idea. David, listen. Do you want me to bring you any books to read, or some pickled calves' feet, maybe? Sick people always eat pickled calves' feet. I wonder why.
I'm not sick, and I don't like pickles calves' feet, and I can't sit up yet, and it's sort of difficult to read books. So maybe tomorrow.
You'll be home before you know it.
Oh, sure.
Car's still at the garage. Man says we'll have it next week.
I guess I can't tell you anymore, not to drive so recklessly. I guess I won't have a leg to stand on.
Not a leg?
I guess from now on, you're the boss at the wheel.
Now, that's a bright thing for you to be saying. Very brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you been driving?
12, 13 years.
How many accidents have you had?
One's enough.
One little accident that wasn't even your fault in 13 years. That's a pretty good record, I'd say. I haven't even been driving 13 months, so don't you start making pretty speeches about me being a better driver.
Am I not allowed to even make pretty speeches?
Oh, darling, I love you, and I want you to be happy.
Come in.
Why, Mr. Tucker.
Hello there, Mrs. Norton. Hello there, son.
Well, this is a surprise.
Just thought I'd amble over and give you my howdy-doody. Here's some posies Delilah sent.
Oh, wonderful. I'll take the flowers down the hall, Mr. Tucker. Have them put in a vase.
No, they're just some posies. No need to make such a fuss about them.
They're beautiful, so stop insulting them.
Well, I can't let a lady carry her own bundles. Here, hand them over. If you insist on taking them down the hall, I'll carry them for you.
There's no need, really.
I can see this gentleman is spoiling you while I'm away.
Hand them over, Mrs. Norton.
You're so gallant, Mr. Tucker.
Be right back, son. Just escorting your wife down the corridor away.
I don't blame you. I'd rather be with Claudia than with me any day.
No, not I. I'd rather be with you. I'm tired of being with me. See you, David.
Well, I sure handled that pretty smooth, didn't I?
What do you mean?
Well, I aimed to have a private chat with you before I started talking to your husband. Don't think he suspected, though, did he?
Even I didn't suspect.
Oh.
Chivalry is such a natural part of your character, Mr. Tucker.
I'll come to the point straight away. How is he?
Well, outside of being slightly discouraged, he's fine. But Dr. Barry warned me he'd be a little depressed.
You didn't need no doctor to tell you that. No man, if he is a man, likes to be incarcerated in one of these here hospitals.
And David least of all.
Them medicos get you flat on your back. As soon as they meet a man close enough to see the whites of his eyes, flat on his back he goes. Yep. That's why I stay away from them, I do. They'd kill a man with attention, they would. Hope I know I ain't never gonna let one of them fellers give me the nonsense. I never did see the insides of a hospital till my daddy was brought in to breathe his last. And that was over his dead body, figuratively.
So you said.
Yep. I knew the minute he crossed the sanctimonious doors of a hospital, he'd breathe his last. And breathe his last. He did.
Well, that certainly is reassuring.
Nope, I ain't never let them rob me of my tonsils. I was born with them. I'll die with them. Guess better go in and see your husband now.
Was that all you wanted to tell me?
Just want to see the lay of the land.
Mr. Tucker, I don't quite know how to tell you, but David is unhappy enough about being in this hospital without you.
Speak up.
What I mean is, he sees all its bad points. What he needs is sort of to see the good ones.
Oh, there ain't none.
Well, I wish you could think of some. David would listen to them if they came from you, Mr. Tucker.
Mrs. Norton, I ain't no hypocrite.
Could you just be a little... pretend the hospital is a fine place for him to be?
Nope. Sorry. I couldn't lie that much.
Even if it's important?
Well,
I guess I better go put these flowers in a vase. I'll be back in a minute.
I'll go in and cheer up your husband.
Yeah, you'll cheer him up all right.
Well, Mr. Norton, I did me little service to the fair sex, and I'm back.
Well, pull up a chair, Mr. Tucker.
Must say it sure is something of a surprise to me to see you lie abed this fine fall weather.
Yeah, it's something of a surprise to me, too.
This ain't a bad room, though, it ain't. Got a nice look out that window.
Well, I can tell you exactly how many branches there are on the tree.
You don't say. You know, I was just telling your wife I'm a fool of a man, all right.
How come?
Well, here I've been going around and priding myself that I ain't never set me foot in a hospital, that I ain't never let no medico coax me into one of these here places. I was telling her that in all the years I never let anyone take care of me save myself.
Well, I think you have the right attitude, Mr. Tucker.
Well, wonder if I do. You know, I ain't the young feller I used to be.
Oh, go on, Mr. Tucker. You're getting younger every day.
Younger from the other end of the yardstick, maybe, but now I can feel my joints going rusty. and my blood running cooler in my veins. Of course, I ain't done in by a long shot. But I ain't never told this to nobody, but life catches up on you, son. It sure does.
Well, I wouldn't complain if I were you, Mr. Tucker. I'm a good bit younger than you are. Here I am flat on my back, while you're walking around on your own 2 legs.
I ain't been hit by a car like you, young one. If I had, I'd be laying down too, but 6 foot under, yep. I'm thinking maybe since this is the autumn of the year and the autumn for Jared Tucker, maybe I ought to let the old guy get himself looked over. Dr. Barry, maybe, yep.
You look fine to me.
You never know. Trees look good on the outside and they're decaying on the inside. It can seem perfectly healthy, and yet parasites will be sucking out its strength. We ain't none of us different from the other. Every now and then we got to get the decaying parasites out of our systems.
Say, what brought all this on, Mr. Tucker?
Oh, just thinking. Just thinking as I watch you laying in bed so comfortable, so cool, looking so good and rested. I ain't seen you looking so good since first set eyes on you.
Well, I don't think I've had so much rest and a lump in my life before.
Do you good. Do me good, too, if I had sense for it. Maybe I ought to let myself get hit by a car.
No, take my advice.
Trying to force me to slow up a few days, maybe, even for a couple of weeks. Does man good to set his mind wandering. Nothing else to do but let it dream and think.
Yeah, I have an awful lot of time for that.
Young man, when I was a boy, I had some sense. I used to lay down on the slope of a hill neath a tree, chewing on a blade of grass, and I used to dream. Just lay there and dream, building castles. Then I started to hopping. I kept right on hopping, still hopping. I look back now, and the best moments in my whole life was when I was laying under that tree with a blade of grass in my mouth and dreaming. Got a half a mind to start dreaming now. Why, a man can be almost anything he wants to be if he gives himself time. I saw myself a John Paul Jones once. Another time I dreamed myself an Abe Lincoln. Then there was a day when the shape of a cloud was in the form of an elephant. And that day I was one of them Indian potentates. Dreaming's a good way of passing time.
I guess I've gotten out of the habit.
Oh, we all do. We ain't got the sense to cut ourselves out a chunk of time just for dreaming. I hold that when there are dreams, when men can believe in them and want to live by them, the world's a better place. We've been hurrying so darn much lately, I kind of forgot.
Those are mighty good thoughts, Mr. Tucker.
Well, you got a big chance, son.
I haven't been looking at it that way.
You had a beam in your eye. But you start ruminating and you won't be feeling so sorry for yourself. Yep, now I've got half a mind to renting your room, getting myself laid up in one of these here beds, have my meals brung in by the pretty nurses, all dressed in white and just laying there staring out the window, dreaming and ruminating.
Well, you've almost got me convinced, Mr. Tucker.
Danged if I ain't got myself convinced. Yep, I sure do envy you.
If when some member of the family wants to have a party, you think it means a lot of extra work for you, here's a suggestion. Instead of making a fuss over company, just get a case of Coke and make no other preparations. Everyone enjoys ice-cold Coca-Cola, and you'll enjoy party giving more if it doesn't ask too much of you in the way of cooking and table setting and dishwashing.
Wait a minute there, Mr. King. Don't say another word.
Why, what's the trouble, Mr. Tucker?
Oh, nothing's the trouble. I just wanted to have a bit of conversation with you.
Oh, I thought you had great news for me.
No, nothing important. Say, I seen the doctor just now.
Mm-hmm.
And he says it like as not young David's going to be going home beginning of the week.
Oh, that is news. Great news.
Think so? I was just convinced by him that a hospital's a fine place to be for a bit of time.
Well, did he convince you, or did you convince yourself?
Well, guess sort of worked sort of mutual. Yeah, I guess did. Yeah, I guess I better be toddling. Pigs ain't getting fed this way. Well, see you later, Mr. King.
Very soon, Mr. Tucker. As I was about to say, every day, Monday through Friday, Claudia comes to you transcribed with the best wishes of your friendly neighbor who bottles Coca-Cola. So listen again Monday at the same time. And now this is Joe King saying au revoir.
From October 1st, 1953, Claudia on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. And it's good to hear that David's getting a little bit better. And of course, I know I've been in the hospital for periods of time, and I want nothing better than to just get out. So I know how he feels. But it's a mess. Anyway, thank you for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Please thank this station, support their advertisers. It's their kindness and courtesy that allow us to be with you each and every time we roll around here on your favorite station. If you miss a day, you don't have to miss a single show. All of our shows are available on demand at classicradio.stream. We post 21 hours a week of classic radio shows there, and you can find them all. classicradio.stream. You can also learn about classic radio collecting, and if you like what we do, you can buy me a coffee. That buy me a coffee money goes to acquiring new classic collections. Alrighty, thanks for tuning in. Tell all your friends the great radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite station.